questions I get asked about quite a lot is how do I separate an element from a scene? So for instance this boat from the sea, so that I could apply effects to the boat that don't affect the sea. So for instance, somebody was asking me about a transition. How could I blur this image without blurring the whole of the image? Now you could theoretically do it in After Effects, but in practice I've not managed to ever get that working. The key is actually to use Mocha. Now Mocha ships with After Effects CS4 and CS5, and I'm actually going to be showing you Mocha 2, which ships with After Effects CS5, because not only does it provide us with fantastic tracking detail, it also provides us with an extra element called Mocha Shape. Now you can buy Mocha Shape as a plugin to go with Mocha 1, so you can go to the Imagineer Systems website and actually buy the plugin. Alternatively, you could also update to Mocha 2 and get all the additional features including shape. So I'm going to show you how to do it with Mocha 2. This is just a very rough demonstration of what you can do with Mocha. So as you can see, I've got the boat perfectly tracked and it's being completely color corrected separately from everything else. So it's just to demonstrate. I've got the background going to black and I'm blowing out the highlights and putting a blur on the front. So this is very simple to do with Mocha, but it is not simple to do with After Effects. Now here's the theory. I go back to the beginning. The theory is you track the boat, so track the boat going forwards. Then what you do is you draw a mask around the boat, and then you would take that mask and link it to the tracking data so that the mask moves with the tracking data. Now that sounds all well and good until you try and do it in After Effects, and let me just briefly show you how you do it in After Effects. So you take your footage, create a new composition, nothing to it, just a boat going forwards. Now we need to track it, so we make sure we're at the beginning of the composition, we make sure our tracker panel is open. If you haven't got it, you go to the Windows menu and you're looking for tracker, and then you decide we're going to track it. Now this particular piece of footage, we're going to need to track rotation and position. So what I'm going to do is create a null object, so firstly I can put the tracking data somewhere. So we go to Layer, New, Null Object, and I'm going to rename that null object, hit return on the keyboard and do TD for tracking data, hit return. So that's where I'm going to put my tracking data when it's done. I don't need to see this null object, so I can physically turn it off. And now I'm going to select the layer I want to track, which is the boat, click track motion, and also I think because this is a rolling boat I also want to track rotation down here, so click rotation. Now I'm going to zoom in with my middle mouse wheel. I'm just going to scroll, then holding the space bar on the keyboard I get my hand tool, pull it down, and now I can choose my 2 points. Right, I'm going to track this red buoy at the front and this black feature at the back. The reason for that is that they are areas of high contrast, and when you are doing the tracker in After Effects you're always looking for areas of high contrast, and when you get areas of high contrast they're going to give you better results. Okay, so I've set it all up, I'm tracking from the beginning and I want to track forwards. I need to pull my panel up so I can see it a bit, and I can click track forwards and let's see how we do. Pretty well so far. As you can see, this line is stretching as the boat rotates in perspective to the camera. We're doing fine on the front, the back end's wobbling around, but that's normal because that's exactly what it's doing. Good, we've got a perfect track. Okay, so the track has happened. So what we now need to do is we need to apply it. So we click on the apply button. It says, do you want to apply X and Y? Yes we do. Click OK. And this has now applied it to our null object tracking data layer. So I now have tracking data. Now to prove it works, let's take our text tool and let's go to the beginning of our clip, and let's clip above the boat and let's just do BOAT, boat, drag my arrow tool and pull it down on top of the boat, and then let's parent the boat, the text, to the tracking data. So we take boat, we say who's your daddy, tracking data, you're my daddy, let go. Now if we hit the space bar we can see that boat is perfectly tracked to the boat, the word boat to the boat, and you can see it's actually rocking as well a bit as we've got position and rotation. Great, so succeeded in doing a standard track. Now what we theoretically want to do now is have a mask. Let's turn off that boat layer. What we want to do is have a copy of this layer, duplicate this layer, and then just mask around the boat and then try and link it. So I'm not going to do a big mask because I'll tell you now it doesn't work very easily. So we duplicate this layer, Command or Control D, to duplicate it, or edit, duplicate if you want to do that. And then on the top layer, I'm going to apply an effect, so it's clearly shown that we've applied an effect. So I'm going to effect, color correction, and I'm going to choose just color armor so that you can see it's something weird. And then I'm going to take the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, and just draw, in fact I'm going to go to the beginning and just draw a rectangle around the boat. There we go. So we can see here is our boat. So this is theoretically the area that we would be tracking. I'm just going to expand it out a bit. There you go. So this is theoretically the area we're tracking. So you'd have thought that now we have created our layer. Let's rename this layer as our mask layer. Hit return. Now we've got our mask layer. You'd have thought, you say, okay, mask, who's your daddy? Grab hold of the pick whip, take it up to the tracking data, let go, hit return, and what happens? Well, quite clearly that is not following along. The tracking data is not working at the same rate as the boat. So actually I'm seeing just C now. I'm not following the boat. So it's not worked. Okay, so what else could we try? Well, maybe what we need to do is we need to open up our tracking data and see we've got information in the position and the rotation. Well, we could try and access both, and let's just try one of them. Okay, so let's open up our mask layer and let's try, as opposed to doing a parenting, so let's take parenting back to none. Let's say open up our mask, and maybe we need to do an expression on our mask path. So we alt click mask path, and we can say what's going to control the mask path. The mask path really ought to be controlled by the position of the tracking data. So we let go of that, hit return on our number pad, and let's pull this down, and let's see what the end result of that is. Well, the mask's not moving at all. Right, okay, so that simply doesn't work. And in fact, you can fiddle around for ages. It's a really complex workflow, and I haven't managed to successfully get it to work in After Effects, certainly not like you can do in Mocha. So I'm going to show you how to make this work in Mocha so that we can get this result. There you go, we've tracked the boat perfectly, the mask has stayed on the boat, we've separated it from the layer beneath and applied an effect. It's not fantastic, but it's the principle that counts. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is take our footage into Mocha, and a word of warning. This footage is HDV. And if I take an MPEG, which is an HDV MPEG, and I try and drop it into Mocha for After Effects, Mocha will crash. You can't do it. So what I've actually done, and you might find this happens with other footage, I don't know, but say it might not take in AVC HD, or it might not take various versions. Don't panic. If your footage makes Mocha crash, select the length of area that you need. I've just got 5 seconds here that I'm going to track. And then you need to export that. So you just select it and you go to, I've got other bits and pieces in here, but you just take the one layer that you wanted to take out, which would be this bottom one. And then we go to composition, add to render queue, and then you would output it. As you can see, I saved it as a Targa sequence and then loaded the Targa sequence into Mocha. So if your footage makes Mocha crash, don't panic, just output it. But there is one key, and I'm just going to click on lossless to show you. Now here I am, and I'm selecting, say I've got an AVI. Now I've got format options. At the moment it says no resizing. Now if I click on the format options and I was to choose, say, DVPAL, and I click OK, a warning sign has appeared at the bottom, and this is very, very important. Click on this and it tells you, warning, output file will be resized. Now it is essential that the footage that you have in Mocha is exactly the same size, exactly the same pixel aspect ratio, and exactly the same frame rate that you have in After Effects. Because if it is not the same size, pixel aspect ratio and frame rate, then the information you get from Mocha will be gobbledygook, and you'll get rubbish coming out of your end results. So if you get this warning, you must definitely choose another format. In actual fact, if I was going for this format, I've got some Intel ones here which I know do not cause the mismatch. There they are, and you can see in the resize area, you're actually going to click the resize button, and it says rendering at resize to, and it's exactly the same. Pixel aspect ratio is exactly the same. So that's how I would render it out if I needed to do an AVI. Okay, just so you know, that's how you get your footage in and make sure it works in Mocha. Don't panic, just render it out. So next thing, go to Mocha. Here I have Mocha 2 for After Effects. which I cannot speak highly enough of. I think Mocha is a fantastic product. I have some of the other versions and they are amazing. But anyway, that's another story. Click on Create New Project and then import your clip. Now I exported my Targa sequence to my desktop. So I click on my desktop, click on the first one in the sequence, and then click Open. I've already opened this before, so it'll probably say, do I want to save it again? And then go through the settings because I know something's wrong here. Right, what am I going to call this? I'll call it Boat into Harbour 3, so that I know it's a new one. It's going to go to the same locations. I've got the whole frame range that has been saved, so there's 125 frames or 125 Targa pictures in the sequence. However, the frame rate is wrong. I filmed in HDV and it was 25 frames per second, not 24. So I need to make sure I manually select 25. The pixel aspect ratio is the same. I didn't do fields. Great. Click OK. Everything's ready to go into Mocha. And there it is. Well, the first thing that's going to happen actually is that the clip is going to cache into Mocha because I've set up my preferences to make sure it does that. I'll wait for this to finish and then I'll show you how you can make sure it does the same. Now as this finishes caching into Mocha, it's important to say if you don't cache your clip then you're not going to get a very smooth playback. And if your clip hasn't cached, what you need to do is go to File, Preferences, and then right in the middle you've got this little checkbox here that says Cache Original Clip, and I would make sure that that is selected so that when you open a new file it's going to cache the clip. Okay, so once the clip is in I can hit the play button down here and I can actually have a look at the clip. It'll play forwards and backwards, a bit jerky. Forwards and then it bounces and plays backwards. Now, to track in Mocha is very, very simple. I need to create a rough shape around this item to do a track. It's not like I need to get individual very close points as we did in After Effects. All I need to do is a rough shape around the boat. That's sufficient for Mocha to be able to track it because Mocha's not looking for a point, it's looking for a plane. Now we need to choose a tool, and here is the tool. It's called the X-Spline tool, and it's something that Mocha have come up with themselves. And we can click on that, and then we just need to roughly click around the boat, and we get this sort of rubber bandy type look as we create a tracking area. We're saying to Mocha, this is the area that we really want you to look in, and then if you want to go back, you either go back to the beginning or simply right click to exit out of that. And over here in the layers control we've created a new layer. Double click on that, highlight it, and we'll call this boat track and hit return. Now we have created the track, and what we've got here is we say let's see the track, hide this layer or show this layer. Are we going to track it or aren't we going to track it? Is this particular one here? Yes, we are going to track it, and we can lock it if we want to. So to track it, we've got track tools down here. We are just going to track forwards. So we click track forwards and see how it does. It's not the fastest process in the world, but it does tend to produce some excellent results. So let's see what it's like. What you need to be looking for is if any of these points are moving in relation to their position to the boat. Now all of them are staying almost exactly static in their relationship to the boat. So we can say that actually, you know what, this is a good track. Nothing seems to be moving dramatically. However, this boat is changing in perspective, and you know what, I haven't actually enabled perspective. Let's see how it does. You can see that actually this mask is beginning to stretch out at the back here as more and more of the boat is showing. And let's see if it manages to continue to do that as it goes through its track. Yep, it's still pulling out, it's still maintaining a distance from the back of the boat as it goes out. Now, this is a highly complex track, and yet it's doing a fantastic job. Mocha isn't really having to break into a sweat to try and follow this through. And there we go. We've got a track, and do you know what? I didn't even do a really good job of drawing around the boat. I've cut the back off there, and I'm a bit too far into the sea here maybe, but look, Mocha's had no problems at all. Now there's a little word over here called mats, and if I click on the mat you can actually see the mat around the boat, and then I can push play and we can have a little look and see how the mat looks over the boat. I haven't got a huge amount of RAM in this particular computer, so it's a bit starty stoppy, but you can still see that it's doing an absolutely fantastic job. we have got a really good track. All the way back and all the way forwards. There you go, that's done a fantastic job. You can see it rolling and pitching and moving all around, and we can see with this mat that it's done a fantastic job of tracking the whole thing. Brilliant. So you can hit the spacebar to stop, turn off the track. I don't need to track that again. However, what I want to do is I actually want to draw a shape around here. I'm going to turn off the mat, and I'm actually going to hide this layer because I don't need to see it anymore. But what I need to do now is I actually want to create the shape, create the mask. And I'm not going to be hugely accurate because this is just a demonstration. I don't want to take a huge amount of time over it. But we're going to draw a shape around this boat. Well, around the area that we want to affect. And actually, I want to affect this area, and I want to affect this area, the wake, as well, because these are areas that we're going to cause to shine out. So how do I do that? Firstly, I need to zoom in. So hold the Z key or the Z key and then push forwards with the mouse. And then hold the X key right next to the Z key to get the hand tool and move down. Z key, move forward until you're up nice and close. X key, there we go, that looks about right. And now I can choose the X spline again. I could do it with the Bezier tool if you'd rather use like the pen tool with a Bezier that you click and pull to get handles. But I'm going to do it for speed. I'm just going to use the X spline. And I'm now going to go quite tightly around the boat. So there we go, I've gone all the way around the boat in rough detail. I haven't been absolutely precise. You can actually go back in, you can move these particular points around if you want. And also, you can, if a point is too pointy, if you take the actual tensioner at the end, you can make it slightly rounder if that's what suits you, to make it slacker or make it more pointy. That's what the X-spline is all about, making things a bit better. We're actually going to soften this curve a bit later on, so don't worry about too much about that. So what we've done now, I'm going to zoom out now by holding the Z key and the X key just to move it back into place. What we've done is we've created a mask around the boat. You can turn the tangents off by clicking this word tangent so you can just see it. Now all I need to do is I need to link the shape that I've just created to the tracking data like we tried to do in After Effects, and that's done over here in the layer properties panel. And what you do is you make sure your layer 3 is selected. We're actually going to rename layer 3, so let's click on it and call it boat shape. Boat shape. Okay, and with the boat shapes layer selected, not locked but selected, we go down to the layer properties panel. I've turned off tracking, by the way, we don't need to track it. And I'm going to do this link to track, and at the moment it's linked to itself, but I'm going to click link to the boat track that we did. And now I'm going to hit play and see what it looks like. I will turn on the mat so we can see what this new layer looks like, and let's hit play and see how well Mocha's done. And I think that's pretty remarkable. There's bits and pieces we can do. Certainly seeing actually the sea at the back here is actually a different perspective, so we probably ought to have done that with a separate track. But we can shift bits and pieces around. So I can see, for instance, let's go forward. We probably want to move these ones up a bit. Now here's a trick. We want to move this, perhaps add another point here, and perhaps move this up and out a bit as well over here. Go to a place where you can see everything. And then what you need to do is not choose Auto key, but choose the word Uber key. Now Uber key will affect everything for the whole of the track. Auto key will just add a keyframe at the one place that you do it. But if you want to change something for the whole of the track, hit Uber key. So I've hit Uber key. I'm now going to zoom in, Z to zoom in, X to move it down, and I need to add a point. Right, here's my add point button. So click on there, and I want to add one point there, possibly another point there, and I think I probably want to add a point there, point here, possibly a point there as well. Then I can go back to my ordinary arrow tool, and then I can just move these up a bit to get a slightly better feel for how the whole thing's going to do. And I'll move these ones up a bit as well. The idea is I just want an area that's going to work for creating the effect that you saw earlier. I don't need to be too precise in actual fact for this one, but obviously the same thing applies if you want to be very precise. Then that's probably going to do it better. I can go back to Auto key now, can zoom back out again, and we can push play one more time and see what it looks like. You can see I've affected keys for the whole of it because I chose the Uber key and not the Auto key. There we go, that's covered the whole area that I'm interested in using. Brilliant. But at the moment I have a very hard edge all the way around this track and I want to make it a lot softer. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. I'm going to take a little area down here where it says edge width. And when you hover over a number in Mocha, you can see actually you get this sort of this circular arrow. It means rather than hot text dragging backwards and forwards as you do in After Effects, you have to do a circular motion to actually make it go up and make it go down. So I'm doing a circular motion. I'm probably going to take it to around about 13 because of the effect I want to get. And then I'm going to click the word set. And it's going to give me this lovely soft edge all the way around. So now I have a mask and I have a soft edge. And I can output this shape data to a new layer in After Effects. How do I do that? There's a little button down here that says Export Shape Data. Click on Export Shape Data, and I just want to take the selected layer. I don't want any of the others, and I'm not even going to save it. I am going to copy to clipboard. Click Copy to Clipboard, and then go back to After Effects. Okay, so here is After Effects. Now I have my boat with all the tracking data that we did in earlier. Let's just get rid of all of that, shall we? Let's get rid of the text, get rid of the tracking data, get rid of our mask layer. So we've just got the original layer here, and even that's got tracking data in, which we don't really want. So let's just go back to the beginning, take it all the way back to the beginning, and let's just turn off these stopwatches so that we don't have any tracking data left. So this clip is, if you like, in its completely unadulterated original state. And we're going to take that and we're going to duplicate it. So Control or Command D to duplicate it. And then we've copied shape data in Mocha. So now we go Edit, Paste. And we have now pasted in the shape. And we've got this thing that says Boat Shape. And this, so if you've got Mocha for After Effects 2, which has got the shape data which you can either buy if you've only got CS4 or comes with CS5, it pastes straight in. And if I turn off the bottom layer here, you'll see what it looks like. There you go. There's the shape data that we brought across. Okay, so what we can do now is we can color correct the top layer in a completely different way to the way that we do the bottom layer. So if we choose the top layer and we go to Effect, Blur and Sharpen, and we can go to, say, CC Radial Blur, and then choose something that says, say, a centered zoom. And then we can click on the center point for the centered zoom and we can center it right in the middle of the boat. And then we can hit stopwatch and go to the end. We could have brought the tracking data in from Mocha if we wanted to actually, but same difference. I have it centered. So we've now actually got an animation of the center of the zoom. And then we can decide on the amount. So let's start with nothing. And then at the end, let's take it as high as we can take it. So I think it's 250. There you go. It's absolutely blurred out while all the rest has stayed as it is. Now obviously we can't see anything, so what we could do is we could add some additional effects. So for argument's sake we could go Effects, Stylize, Glow. And then we can actually play around with the glow settings. So we can actually make the glow intensity brighter if we want. So we could start with 0 and send it higher. So you get the idea. Because we have created a completely separate shape of the boat, we can affect that layer completely independently to the layer below it to get all kinds of effects that we want. So that's how you can create a custom shape, make sure it's tracked and it works by using Mocha for After Effects, and produce something that I think at the end of the day is going to look fantastic. Well, I hope you found this tutorial useful. It's just a quick guide, but hopefully it'll help you with your own workflow. My name's Andrew Davis. Thank you for watching.